AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Hello, welcome to the Alldus podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer at Alldus International. In today's AI in Action series, I'm delighted to be joined by Diyva Bokaria, who's the Head of Data Analytics at Zattoo. Divya, very, very welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Mark.
Can you tell me a little bit about your background and specialism, and then tell us a little bit about the work that you do at Zattoo?
Basically, I am the head of data and analytics at Zattoo, and how I landed in data space is kind of a bit of a serendipity journey. I started my career as a software engineer, and at that time, I was not really able to connect what I was doing in a small piece of code to why was I doing this and how does it affect the organization. And that's when I decided to go for an MBA. And after that, I was working as a financial analyst. At that point of time, I got an opportunity to move to Germany. And somehow I realized that in Germany, finding a financial analyst job in a bank without knowing German is not so easy. And that's when I tried to take up a strategy internship, because that's what I had done in my B school also, with the e-commerce company. I liked it, and somehow they were looking for someone to manage their data warehouse, their data, and internalize it. And they were like, hey, you're good with numbers, why don't you take this up? And I was like, okay, I can try this. I'm pretty sure at that time I was not aware of all the terminology related to data and what this whole thing was about. But I got the hang of it, and I loved the way how you can look through the eyes of data and see the whole organization and try to make decisions or give decision-making capabilities to the whole organization with the data that you have. And that's been super interesting for me. Being in data is like nerdy, and at the same time, it gives you a full understanding of the company, which is super, super nice. And I've had the chance to work in different types of companies: e-commerce, classifieds, e-learnings, TV streaming. And that has given me a lot of breadth of ways in which data adds value to different types of organizations. And that's something that I really, really cherish.
That's great. And tell me a little bit more about some of the work in data and machine learning that you've been involved in.
So some of the stuff that I have done on the data side, and which I'm really, really proud of, is actually being able to leverage the power of self-service analytics. So in today's world, and especially in the kind of tech companies that we come from, we produce a lot of data. And all the business and the product side of people are expected to go through and understand a lot of different metrics and try to analyze everything from a different point of view. Everyone comes up with their own dashboard requirements, and over time, data stops talking to each other. Like every department, every person has their own go-to stuff that they look to. And when they try to then break the silos for business processes to work, to make decisions, it's just hard. So my approach is simple. I think it's needed that we see data as a product, and we set up data marts for different parts of the organization. And by this approach, we can really tackle 80% of all the questions and the decision-making needs that arise in the company. For the rest of the 20%, it's the hard part where you need the data analytics team to really understand how data can add value. But the rest 80%, it's about understanding the KPIs, bringing out the value from looking at it from the short-term, long-term impact perspective. And this is something that I educate the business product side on and work around it. So that's like the work on the self-service analytics part. Then on the machine learning or algorithms part of things, what I have done is something that I've also leveraged from my financial analyst background. In the banks, we were used to do stress testing with statistical models for predicting if the banks will do well later on. And I think in this predictive setup, what I learned is that you really need to know from experts what is going on or how things influence each other. You need to have a clean set of data, and then you apply your algorithms to make it work. And that's what I also use as a philosophy for machine learning, where we have, I apply algorithms in cross-functional teams where you have the data scientists, you have data engineers, you have the business side to guide on the business processes. I take a problem where you can set goals, measure things, and apply machine learning to it. And it takes time, but it works.
Thank you for that really comprehensive overview. Can you tell me a little bit about Zattoo and how you're leveraging data there?
So Zattoo is a TV streaming company for both live and VOD content. What is really unique about Zattoo is that it acts more both like a direct-to-consumer business and also as a TV platform service. So you could, as a single person, you could buy a Zattoo subscription, or you could buy our service like a lot of other services as a third-party company. And TV streaming data is, of course, high volume and very complex. That's one of the challenges of it. And other part is TV applications are there in a lot of different places. And working in, say, e-commerce, you have the web app and you have the 2 mobile apps, and that's it. In TV, you have all the different TV OSs, you have set-top boxes, you have, of course, the web and the mobile apps, and you also have crazy stuff like Xboxes. So the complexity of the data is then really many, many folds greater. And over here, we do leverage data quite a bit. We do use data to make decisions both on the product side and on our offering side, both inside the company and also give back to our partners. And basically, my vision is to make database decision making more a part of the company and use it in as much of a strategic value sense as possible, and drive it both internally and for our partners and all in our products. So use it as much as possible for inside our product, for example, for personalizing the entire experience. And data has taken a more strategic value at Zattoo since, say, the last 1.5 years. And that's very exciting times for me because I joined it a year ago, and it's very exciting to see the change that data can drive here.
It's such an exciting field to be applying data to generating insights. Tell me more about your ideas on self-service analytics.
So the basic idea that I told you is just that create database products, self-service analytics tools that can help one area of the business and connect different areas of the business together. Some of the strategic work that I also do over there is, of course, then work in a very collaborative manner with the teams that this data would be serving, and come up with the structures, come up with the data mart where you have the key KPIs, all the metrics, attributes set up in a proper manner where business understands which part drives what kind of value. And that's basically the hard part of it. It solves 80% of the questions, and then for the rest 20%, you always have advanced analytics to answer everything. And one amazing thing about this approach is that the business side loves it, loves the control that they can have on the data, the understanding that they can have, and the feeling that they can solve things in a simple manner without getting drowned in complex calculations, and focusing on what are the real questions, where are the places where they need to drive decisions instead of thinking about how do I manipulate this piece of data, or is my data consistent with someone else's data? I remember when without this approach, half the conversations about data are, is my KPI right or is your KPI right? And that's the stuff that you never want to have. You want to spend most of your time analyzing data to drive insights.
I think it's such an important point, because by making sure you're stepping in the shoes of the business users, you've got so much empathy in terms of what's really important to them. And consequently, you can work on problems that actually are really impactful rather than solving really interesting problems that don't really make a difference to the business. Can you tell me a little bit about how you've leveraged machine learning in your different roles?
Yeah, as I said, I started as a financial analyst, and now in the different companies, my journey has started with e-commerce, where calculating returns of the products was very, very important, and that's where a lot of different types of algorithms helped us. Other types of problems were trying to understand upselling, same in the e-commerce world, to keep the customer coming back to your platform. Then when moving to e-learning, we did apply a lot of machine learning to understand customer lifetime values, churn, and to prevent churn. And now at Zattoo, it's getting even more exciting as we are trying to embed machine learning in our products more and more. So not as a machine learning product, but as part of the main product itself, where we are trying to put it as part of the whole personalization experience itself. And that's super, super interesting and exciting as to which areas can machine learning help in and which it may not be the best solution for.
And it's a really good point because we have the hype cycle, and there's always a challenge that a business leader is going to say, well, can you just throw machine learning at it? Can you talk me through some of the challenges of applying AI to companies and the reality of achieving this with the hype cycle that's all around us?
Yeah, I mean, every second person in data nowadays has a title of data scientist, right? So that's the hype cycle of it. But basically what I see is that everyone believes that machine learning is magic. So someone would apply some algorithms and it would turn into magic, and that's not the case. You really have to set up the right goals. You need to have the right success metrics and need to understand the problem areas where you need to apply machine learning at. And machine learning cannot give results from day one to the day two. It really takes time to refine your algorithms to the problem to fit it together. And one other challenge that I see that people do not take care of enough is that machine learning cannot work in a silo. You cannot have a machine learning scientist playing around with that data and coming up with complex algorithms which will solve your business needs. You have to embed them in the teams where you explain them what the exact problem is and what are we trying to achieve. The business side needs to understand what different kinds of algorithms can bring. The data and processes needs to be understand so that you're using the right data, and understand what business processes are generating what kind of data, so that you're just not blindly using any garbage data to produce some results. And it takes time. It just sometimes just takes time, because the first algorithm that you try may not work. The second one may not also work. You just have to keep following the end goal that you're looking at and refining what you're doing, and apply and have faith and the right people.
So this leads me on to my next question about how do you educate people internally about data to help drive more data-driven decisions?
What I feel is that everyone today in the companies that I work in, at least, needs to look at some type of data or the other. And what I really try to educate people on is the focus of not getting lost in the details of the data, but focus on the problems and what kind of KPIs do they want to impact and what can help them drive that, to understand what is big, what is small. And that's basically the simple things that I try to focus on. And of course, on the self-service approach and making people learn more on the tooling side. I think that's also very important, to enable people with the tools, some of the self-service tools that are out there, and get out of the bring 10 lines in Excel and then manipulate 10 different data sources in it, because that will not work with the kind of big data that we have today. So this is the two main things. I try to get business leaders on different parts to involve the data teams in setting up the KPIs, because there's a lot of value in doing that, and to then set up the chain of metrics behind different teams which are aligned with what they are doing. So this is, I think, very important strategic work that needs to be done. And on a side note, as a fun thing, I also host my own podcast channel at Zattoo, for example, where I sit with one of the business experts and try to demystify the numbers from a business perspective for the entire company.
Thank you very much. You've been listening to the Alldus podcast as part of our AI in Action series. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer at Alldus. In today's show, we've been speaking with Diyva Bokaria. She's been sharing some of the projects that are happening at Zattoo and some of the recent case studies and how to overcome some of the challenges to successful data science adoption. Thank you very much for your time today, Divya.
Thank you, Mark, for having me here. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.